At this wedding, I was talking with an old friend who was there at the wedding. And this old friend had just gone through a time, some stuff in his life over the last year or so that would cause really almost any human being, any human being in our natural self would be just super stressed and scared by these things that had happened to him. And I asked him about what that experience was like. How are you doing? And he was overjoyed by that experience. Why? Because it was fun? No, it wasn't fun. Because he could see the progress that God had made in him. He said, I'll tell you, this is the first time in my life, he said, that I've walked through an experience like this, and I can honestly say I didn't have one anxious thought. He said, I walked through it and I just knew that God's hand was in this and that he was going to bring it to a great conclusion. And so in these things that would have caused me before to be terrified and full of anxiety and stress, I walked through in peace and joy. What? And so you can see a moment like that. Have you ever had a moment like that? If you've grown in Christ significantly, you probably had a moment at least a little bit like that. Let me tell you what it's like to be in a moment like that. Now, that doesn't happen always to me, but it has happened to me as well. To be in a situation like that, where something that should be destroying you is not destroying you, it's like you have a superpower. If you had a superpower, you would be super excited to use it. Like, let's imagine for a minute, imagine you could actually walk through fire and not be burned. Like you could go into a forest fire, walk through the blazing coals and falling trees, and you were perfectly fine every time. What do you think you might spend your time doing? Yeah, it might be exciting actually to walk through a forest fire if you had that power, wouldn't it? You would probably go do it. You would go into the forest fires on purpose because they can't touch you. This is Paul. On his way to Jerusalem, every church he visited told him the same thing. We can see in the Spirit that if you go to Jerusalem, you're going to be bound hand and foot and thrown in jail and abused and mistreated. Don't go. And every person that said that to Paul, he said, I already know. That's why I'm going. I'm ready to die for Christ. They told him, don't go into that forest. There's a forest fire over there. And he said, forest fires don't burn me anymore. That's why I'm going into the forest fire. Do you want to become like this? Let's do it. It takes a long time, okay? It's not going to happen at the snap of a finger, but you can become like this. Paul was a human being just like you and me. Actually, he had a lot of problems, especially when he was younger.